Ich würde sagen, ich mache mich erstmal frei hier und das sollten Sie vielleicht auch einfach machen. So, jetzt können wir loslegen. Build digital democracy. What are we talking about? We all know that we're challenged by existential threats, and that's why we have these United Nations Sustainability Goals, 17 of them, that we're supposed to reach by 2030. These issues are serious. There's a lack of sustainability. We're overusing renewable resources. And the question is, how can we really solve those issues within the available time? Some people are now asking, can democracy handle climate change? Or will democracy basically fail to address these challenges, which means that we would lose democracy? And with that, human rights and human dignity, perhaps. So basically, what are we talking about when we talk about climate emergency? Are we talking about emergency law, or are we talking about empowering citizens to solve our issues? Traditionally, there are two pillars to address those challenges. Pillar one is global corporations and international trade. Apparently, even though we know about the upcoming threats since about 50 years, those corporations haven't fixed the problems yet. And it doesn't look like they will be fixing them by 2030. They are, of course, oriented at profit maximization, and that is not exactly what humanity needs right now, it seems. On the other hand, there's pillar two, nation states and United Nations. So politicians have been sitting together many times, over many years, decades in fact, to come up with laws and regulations, but they come pretty late. And it's not so clear how they would really manage to change the situation dramatically in our favor. So if things are to end well, we need something in addition, which is pillar three, digital democracy. And that means activating collective intelligence and collective action, and that's why we are here. So what is collective intelligence about? You've always seen these beautiful flocks of birds, and we wonder, how does it work? There's not a leading bird that tells all the others what they should do. Somehow every bird is responding to all the neighboring birds, and that creates a beautiful coordination and beautiful patterns. I'm pretty sure our airports couldn't handle as many planes at the same time. But birds can do that, and they don't use supercomputers. In fact, this idea that society could be run in a self-organized way is pretty old, more than 300 years old. For example, there's the fable of the bees. And you know, beehives are miraculous things, and these are societies, quite complex. And they have a queen bee, but it turns out this queen bee doesn't tell the other bees what to do. Again, it's self-organization that makes all those wonderful coordinations happen. Same thing with ants. Have you ever thought how many neurons are in a heap of ants? An anthill. It's about as many neurons as in one human brain. But an entire society runs on that collective intelligence. It's amazing. So we are all much more intelligent. How can we use our intelligence actually to run a society as complex as we have it today? Or think of termites. They have entire cities, and they're beautifully climatized up to, I think, 0.5 degrees Celsius. Temperature stays constant inside. How do they do that? You know, without air conditioning, using electricity and all this? No. It seems to be amazingly smart. And we want to live in a smart society too. But how to make democracy work in the digital age? That's the question. I mean, we're seeing a lot of chaos around us. Just think of Brexit, for example, right? Many people take it as an example to state democracy is at the end. We need to have, again, kind of a top-down controlled society. Maybe an AI system or a super intelligent system should run our societies and tell us what to do. And actually, China is pretty much doing an experiment like this with their citizens' score, but it's technological totalitarianism. This is certainly not what we want. So we need to learn to bring the best ideas of many minds together. In fact, the human brain is a social brain. It likes to be connected with others. It likes communication and information exchange. Most of the information that we use is outside of our brain. In your brains, for example. And so we need to bring that knowledge together and the best ideas together more effectively and efficiently in order to benefit from this and solve our problems. But now, in principle, we could build online deliberation platforms. I'm not talking about Facebook. I mean, certainly these platforms are creating a lot of hate speech and flame wars and all these kind of things. We need to design them in a different way. Maybe more like a village where all the arguments basically are put on a virtual table. And it's not about winning, it's really about collecting information and then arranging that information in a logical way so we can see the different perspectives on a certain complex problem, which is very important. It's not important to tell others how they should think about the problem. It's important to collect these different perspectives because problems today are so complex that a single perspective will never give a good picture of the problem and also not good solutions. And there are some very nice examples that you can read about this also, I think at Wikipedia and otherwise in the internet. Netflix Prize is just one of these examples where you could win $1 million, I believe, if you were able to improve an algorithm of Netflix recommending movies to customers, if you were able to improve it by, say, 10% or so. And it turned out that all those competitors, there were, I think, hundreds of competitors and thousands of solutions, didn't manage to crack this threshold for about 2 years, if I remember well. And then basically the boss of one of those teams stepped into the office, that's what somebody told me, and said, yeah, don't you want to do something else again? And the team said, well, then maybe we have to take another approach. And they combined their solution with solutions of other teams. In fact, worse solutions. And they would think that would deteriorate the quality of the solution. And just the opposite was the case. They were immediately jumping above the threshold, and the other teams were doing the same thing and combining solutions, and they reached about the same quality of solution. So not the individually best solution is the best kind of, it's not the point to be a genius. The point is to have diverse solutions and to combine them with each other. That will create better solutions if the problem is complex enough, and we have a lot of complex problems these days. So all of this is about combining different perspectives. Don't hate your enemies in your opposition. We need their different points of view on complex problems in order to get a better picture of the problem. And we've been working a little bit on creating simple platforms to promote collective intelligence. One of them is called Empower Polis, Digital Agora. Not terribly sophisticated, but it's a start. Now the question is, how can we fix the world's problems with this approach? And the answer is City Olympics. So basically, a friendly competition among cities and regions in the world for the best solutions and implementations and courses of action. So every so and then, I don't know, every 2 years or so, we would have these city competitions, and all the stakeholders of the city would be invited to engage, to come up with solutions to certain kind of problems. Well, why have a competition? First of all, we all know competition actually makes us put a little bit more effort into something, and it makes us all better, right? But it's not just about winning against others. Now, the idea is to combine competition with cooperation around the entire world, in fact. That means turn cities into innovation engines and network cities with similar problems and solution approaches around the world to build one peaceful world where we all learn from each other. And there would be different disciplines, right? How to improve mobility or sustainability or energy use, resilience, peace maybe, whatever is really a big unsolved problem, probably a global problem. And so the point is we would go from globalization to localization. Rather than waiting 30 years or so until everyone agrees on one solution and implementing just one solution in the entire world, and then maybe finding out 20 years later that, oh, there are side effects, there are unintended effects that we didn't want to have, and now everyone is using that solution, we would think global goals, and we would act local and diverse, make local experiments. Not everyone would do the same thing, because nobody knows what is the best solution or what will be the best solution. You have to figure it out. You have to try it out. And then evaluate those experiments and learn from each other, and some experiments will fail. And so we should help each other, because even those failing experiments will help other people to learn what we shouldn't do. And this is valuable knowledge created. Okay, and this year actually we have started a first Climate City Cup on a small scale with the very limited means that we had, but in principle you could imagine that every city is putting some taxpayers' money aside, some millions, and then the outcome, however, would be open source and Creative Commons, right? So everyone around the world could use that newly created knowledge and those solutions. And you just take the solution that fits your city and region best. And you can develop it further. Like SMEs can take it and develop it further. Spin-off companies, citizen entrepreneurs can take it, combine those solutions, and again, develop it further. So basically, all those great solutions that would be created would be connected potentially with each other if we want this, and thereby better and better solutions would come up. So you've started very small. So we had Syncerian creating some sensors for us to measure air quality, highly precise, by the way. And then there were a number of steps that had to be done basically to complete the measurement set, and the battery had to be added, of course, and all this. And then you could basically participate in that competition and basically see how are cities doing in terms of air quality, for example. And are they improving air quality within the period of time of that competition? Of course, here companies could participate, they could try to sell better solutions, like energy-saving solutions, modern technology. Media could report about those competitions. It would probably be very interesting to see what's going on. Politicians could mobilize their city and region, and citizens, first of all, could participate and come up with ideas and solutions together. Yeah, and this is in the first year, so there are a couple of cities participating in this, but at least it goes as far as India, and so now it's spreading, and hopefully it will become a big international, in fact, global movement, where it will be a lot of fun, actually, to come up with solutions for the future, rather than telling everyone, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. You know, people don't like to hear this. We rather want to improve the world. And so, how to do that? And basically, we would develop further formats that have been successful in the past, such as hackathons, app labs, makerspaces, citizen science, open data, open access, and open code repositories, and all these kind of things, and put it on the next level, on the level of cities and networks of cities and the entire planet, in fact. So these competitions would extend over several months. We couldn't always do that in the past, but we have certainly engaged in various hackathons, and it was always really amazing to see how engaged those students were. In many cases, they came also from all over Europe and all over the world and came up with dozens of really incredible solutions. And we've been participating in Hack for Climate and many other opportunities. And again, you can see one of guys who has really put a lot of brain power into this and into solution. It was a lot of fun. And another example that I'd like to mention, even though we haven't been involved in this, is Fairphone, right? This shows that a makerspace like the one in Amsterdam can come up with their own smartphones even, you know? And much fairer, and you can open it up, you can see how it works, you can repair it, you can upgrade it, and all these kind of things. And we could all learn from each other. If we open up that knowledge, and in fact it's not difficult, and you can come up with a massive open online course. As soon as you learn something, you can share that knowledge with the rest of the world, and then through augmented reality, we can basically turn non-experts, not necessarily into experts immediately, but into people who would be able to apply that knowledge and do a lot of this stuff that you've learned to do before. And also we could create platforms that stimulate creativity and cooperation, and one of the fields that's relevant for this is social computing, where basically a project is broken down in different steps, and software would help you organize that project, find the people to realize the project, set up the time schedule, manage your resources, and all these kind of things, right? And I personally think in the future, political parties and companies will more and more be replaced by projects, in fact, right? So basically, you have an idea, you have a goal, you're finding people to reach this goal, you make that knowledge available worldwide, it can impact the entire globe. Once you've finished one of these projects, you start the next project. Sometimes you're coordinating a project, sometimes you're helping a project to succeed. It could be a business project, it could be a social project, a cultural project, an environmental project, and maybe you want to be involved in these different kinds of projects to have this life satisfaction that we are all striving for. Some people think, and I would agree, that we've only invented 1% of all things. So there's an amazing number of new things that we could invent. And in fact, a lot of ideas just don't make it because they don't find the venture capital. We need to have different kinds of financing, like crowdfunding. And I think, you know, besides basic income, we should have an investment premium. That would be money that we get to distribute it to others who have great ideas and engage for something important. But I personally believe we can actually do much more than most people think. Take OpenStreetMap, right? I think it was invented at UCL in London, and then quickly it spread all around the world. Now there are 1 million people approximately who are contributing data to the system to keep it up to date, and everyone can use that data and navigate and all these kinds of things and combine all sorts of services with that. And you can go a step further and use that information that's out there on the internet, like the many photographs that tourists and normal people upload to the web and basically reconstruct cities in 3D, right? Amazing. And you can do that all from your desk at home or in a coffee shop or whatever, you know? So now I think we need to reflect how to upgrade smart cities that are using, of course, big data and AI towards participatory cities where digital democracy is alive, where collective intelligence can add to the smartness of technology. I think it's very important that we can create and shape our cities, otherwise it's not our cities. And that brings us to open source urbanism, or also, you can also, of course, sell designs to be implemented elsewhere. But I really love this idea of open source urbanism. So it takes those success models of Wikipedia and GitHub and Creative Commons further over open source hardware to open source architecture and open source urbanism. And it requires basically openness, collaboration, modularity, granularity, and low-cost integration. And there are some cities that are already doing such a thing, and it has certainly increased the quality of living in these quarters. So people have been making it their city quarters, their cities. What we can also do is we can build all sorts of digital assistants. It's not so difficult. You don't need to be a millionaire and buy a factory to do that. You need to have a bunch of people to do that together. And we've been working on a number of platforms such as EmpowerPolis and GrippeNet and NervousNet. These are, of course, not as sophisticated as WhatsApp, but they're participatory and democratic, and they take care about privacy and all these kind of things, right? So, yeah, apparently it's fun using that stuff, and you can see some of the screenshots that have been created within these apps, and one of the applications is, of course, health. And you know, quantify itself, but of course the issue is that in many cases data will be sent to companies and maybe to your insurance company, not even your doctor or even less yourself, and you don't know what's happening with the data. Do you really want this? Probably not, right? So we would want to know more about our health and help ourselves and help each other in a fair way, in the sense of empowering citizens and patients. And this is a platform that we've been working on in order to get into this direction, called GrippeNet, or in France, and or responsible consumption, something that Fridays for Future and Extinction Rebellion and politicians are more and more talking about. And the approach is typically to nudge people, to trick them into not eat meat anymore, or do this or do that and so on. And we think this is not the right way. It's not doing justice to human intelligence. And in fact, we have created a platform for more responsible, more sustainable consumption, where people can say how much they care, not just about the price, but also about health, about sustainability, about socially responsible production, maybe allergies. So your smartphone would know locally, you wouldn't tell it a server or a company, and then your smartphone will basically scan the codes of those products in order to figure out what are the products that fit your preferences best, right? So you don't have to read all the small print. The smartphone does it for you. It tells you that is, from your point of view, the best product, and that's the second best, and so on. It turns out people will try out new products and they will change their behavior. So you don't need to trick people to make them change their behavior. You just need to give them the tools to do it. And in fact, here is another study that shows that this guy, Yukdeep, has managed to change his behavior considerably using an app that he has created for empowerment, right? Of course, in a highly complex and diverse world, we need coordination, no question. Yeah, we need to understand each other. Real-time translation certainly can help, but there are a lot of more things that we can do. Digital assistants can prompt us to opportunities that we have not paid attention to in the past. And in fact, every day, we're standing at bus stops and not talking to people that we might be able to do great things with, In principle, our smartphones, if you wanted to do this, could tell us, oh, maybe you should talk to that person interested in the same kind of literature. And that person likes the same kind of theater performances, and that is a person you might be able to do the project with that you always wanted to do. So why don't you talk to each other while you wait for the bus? And you could also have functionality to help people coordinate and adapt to each other and protect them from exploitation and so on. Yeah, a social mirror that shows you what the impact of your behavior is on the environment and on others would also make you want to behave nicer, as you want to look nicer if you look into a mirror, right? You don't have to force and trick people. Just give them feedback, right? And then we would all want to be a little bit better and a little bit nicer. And it's not about doing one and the same thing. I believe that cultures are full of success principles. Every culture has their own success principles, and we could learn what these success principles are and how to combine them with each other in order to solve some of the problems that we have today. So this cultural richness shouldn't be seen as an obstacle, but as an opportunity, really. As I said, diversity is really important. And then we need to prepare, of course, for crises and disasters. Our society should be much more resilient. And we shouldn't be just relying on first aid and military, but we should be able to help ourselves and help each other. And so, coming from Switzerland, of course, to mention this, that's today's survival kit, but tomorrow's survival kit, or even today's, this afternoon's, say, the survival kit is this. And you can do a lot of things with that, as I learned when we were running this hackathon in San Francisco some years back, 2014. What if the big one hits? Talking about earthquake resilience, right? So first of all, smartphones could actually collectively figure out if the earth was shaking and an earthquake was happening. It could warn your friends and family in some distance to get out of the house or office as quickly as possible and make some people survive. They would otherwise perhaps die or get injured. And then once the disaster has happened, you want to be able to help yourself and each other, you often take 3 days until military and government are ready to help. But within these 3 days, it's a period where most people die. It's too late when they come and help. So you need to be able to help yourself, right? With your smartphone, you can actually document the damages created to bridges and buildings and all this, and upload it and create a map that's very informative about the situation. And everyone, locally, your neighbors, but also first aid, government, and so on, would immediately know what the situation is and where are the locations that need most help. Then also, of course, in between, you need to be able to recharge your smartphone, and you need to have autonomous recharging stations using solar panels. So you need to be prepared for a power outage. It will happen, and just exactly when you need it most, you most likely won't happen normal electricity and communication. And then you want to be able to help each other, right? You want to say, I need help. Can somebody just sit my baby while I have to buy some stuff? Or does somebody have some warm blankets or whatever? And you would be able to provide something else. And you need to match supply and demand basically locally without a central server. So you need ad hoc networks, and you need to have a sharing economy that is organized in a centralized way, using, for example, fire chat between phones. So it's all decentralized, right? You don't depend on government. You just have the tools to help yourself and each other. And in fact, when there is a disaster, people are willing to help. And we can take that a step further and say, why do we wait for the crisis and disaster? We could use these approaches today to improve our everyday situation. And this is what the digital upgrade of democracy, in other words, digital democracy is about. And we've been thinking about how to create our own data. And we started to develop an app. I'm not sure it's operational right now, but at least the code is at GitHub. And so the idea was to use our smartphones to be able to collect data, because there are a lot of sensors in those smartphones, and you can generate your own data, in fact, right? We could connect our smartphones if you wanted. I don't know, have to want it, but if you wanted, we could connect them to create a global measurement network that's independent of the government, a citizen network. And of course, we would want to have one that we can trust. It doesn't just listen to what we're doing and surveil us, but we would want to be able to determine what kind of what kind of sensors are being used for measurements, and whether you would use that data just for yourself or would want to share it, and so on. But the goal would be to create a citizen web, run the Internet of Things as a citizen web, a participatory system, an open data source with real time, where the success principle is give and take, fair play, right? You can take data, but you should also give data. So it works. You can take source code, but if you modify it, to adjust it to your own purposes, you should also upload it again so other people can use it and modify it. So we would have a very powerful repository, new opportunities for all in terms of data analytics and applications and services. So the principle would be empowerment. And so if we set it up well, it would enable users, customers, citizens, and the result would be better services, better products, better businesses, better neighborhoods, smarter cities, and smarter societies. And the success principle really would be combinatorial innovation and co-evolution and cooperation and information innovation ecosystem, where as we make progress, we're benefiting from the progress of others as well. So we are all standing on the shoulders of giants, but we are also giants in a sense. We are standing on each other's shoulders, right? And making progress. And in fact, it's a lot of fun to work on these things and, you know, experiment and see what you can do. You can build games, of course. Treasure Hunt was one of the games that we created, but you can do much more serious things, such as, for example, map resources and where are they located and who is using them and all these kind of things. And of course, the biggest problem maybe is to overcome lack of sustainability. You know, how to do that really? Politics hasn't been extremely successful in this with laws and regulations, just too slow and also too restrictive. But it's a problem if we produce 50 tons of waste in a lifetime, like tables, boards, computers, cars, smartphones, you know, a lot of valuable stuff that other people could still use, just going into the rubbish. And, well, society cannot be steered like a car. I mean, politicians and business people would love this, but it's not the way. But we can learn from nature. Nature has evolved over billions of years, and it's very efficient and it's using resources in an extremely efficient way. I think we can learn a lot, really, from nature. Now, nature is not using a system like money to control a complex system. Money is a one-dimensional thing. Nature, in fact, uses instead a multi-dimensional approach. Multiple different feedback loops for carbohydrates, for proteins, for vitamins, for minerals, and so on. Cannot replace it mutually, usually. And so why are we not using such a multi-dimensional real-time feedback approach to our economy and become as efficient as nature is in terms of use of resources? And basically, you know, turn this in economy, kind of supply chains as we have them today, into a circular economy. And for this we could use the Internet of Things, but I don't think we should centralize all that data. We should use that data locally and in a privacy respecting way. We could, for example, map noise and other externalities and CO2 and garbage of all kinds, like glass, steel, plastic, and so on. And the number one principle would be to increase positive externalities, reduce negative ones, and ensure fair compensation. And we could build this multidimensional incentive and feedback system using, for example, blockchain technology to introduce new forces into the market that would incentivize to produce in a more environmentally friendly way or socially respecting way, and thereby closing our logistic supply chains into a circular economy and sharing economy. I'm personally convinced there are enough resources for everyone on this planet. We just need to learn to organize ourselves in a different way so it would be available for everyone. So you can be a game changer. You can turn that old game of the old economy competing for material resources, the monopoly game, into another game. Sociopolis, the social city where we help each other based on co-learning, co-creation, coordination, cooperation, and co-evolution. We can create a world of makers. And actually, you know, we had this beautiful Make City Festival in Berlin last year. Just suppose at the same time we would do that in Hamburg, in Munich, in Paris, in London, and also in medium-sized and small cities and regions. And we already would have that Climate City Cup. We would just need to exchange all the great ideas that we came up with. And in fact, at 4:30 we're going to get to work. There will be a workshop where we will exercise our digital democracy experience and jointly come up with solutions for the future. Thank you.